Prefab Sprout Cars and Girls. You're on BBC Radio Sheffield at 10:35. I'm joined in the studio by the friends to talk about the stories in the news today. Marisa Cashill, who's from Bolsover, and Frederika Roberts, who's from Doncaster. Marisa is currently going through a February detox. She's looking very well on it. And Frederika's looking for sponsorship from businesses to help run her Resilience Wellbeing Success programme in local schools, and she looks very resilient, if I may say so. Thank you both for coming in. Let me ask you the question everyone's asking today. Are you interested in the referendum? The date's set. In 4 months' time, we'll get a chance to say yes or no to Europe. The voting on the 23rd of June. We might have to prepare ourselves for Brexit. Well, Frederika.
Well, I am very interested. Unfortunately, as I'm not British, I won't be able to vote. But as a foreigner in this country, yes, I'm highly interested in the outcome of the referendum. I also grew up in the heart of Europe. I grew up in Luxembourg. Both my mum and stepdad were civil servants for the European Parliament. So I've really grown up in the middle of it all. So predictably, I'm very pro-EU and pro-Europe. But I think from a British point of view, you know, in terms of jobs, the ability to travel, the ability to export, I think Britain would lose an awful lot if we were to leave.
Marisa.
I'm not too informed just yet on this. I know it's the hot topic of the day. I do think that people ahead of June need to actually get research in, because that vote really does matter. And I think people, you know, don't want to just tick yes or no just without researching it, and I think that's exactly what I will be doing, researching as to, you know, why we should stay in the EU. And I think, you know, I'm gearing towards that at the moment, but there could be somebody somewhere that can change my mind.
Thank you. It's BBC Radio Sheffield, where we are talking about things that can change our mind at any point. We're talking about stuff in the news, which includes that referendum. I'd like to ask you two a question about the business of Syria. We were talking a few moments ago to the woman from Sheffield who's been collecting donations to fill a 40-foot shipping container being sent off to Syria. There's news about Syria, of course, in the news, and it's not getting any better. Are you concerned about Syria, Marisa?
I am indeed, yes. There was an emotive photograph out in the presses last week, and it showed, you know, a typical beautiful street in Syria before the war, and in contrast, you know, the devastation that the war has caused. There wasn't a single human person on that photograph, but the photograph really turned me. You know, you've gone from having a normal life with a beautiful home, palm trees down a lovely alley, and then just destruction just because of war, and that sort of makes you realise these are real people just like you and I, going to work, you know, the kids having, you know, games consoles to come home to, and now they're living in squalor, and we really should support them.
Frederika.
Yeah, absolutely agree with Marisa on this. We were talking about it outside as we were listening to you and your guests, and you know, one container might not make a huge difference, but we should be sending lots of containers. How can you not be compassionate when you think, you know, these people have been dehumanised a lot, I think, when you look at the images of them coming over to Europe and to Britain, but actually they are people like you and me who are facing terrible, terrible circumstances. How can we not want to help and feel compassionate?
It's BBC Radio Sheffield, 21 minutes to 10. I want to ask you to 11. I want to ask you about where your ancestors come from, you two parties. You've got such funny names. I think you're going to have to disentangle them. But later in the programme, we're going to be speaking to some people from the Polish school in Sheffield. They're celebrating 65 years of teaching children of Polish origin the language, the history, the geography, the culture and the heritage of Poland. Where are your ancestors from? Frederika, I guess, with a name like Frederika, and from what you've already told us, oh, I don't know, Greece.
Italian and German, actually. On my mum's side, my granddad was German and my grandmother was Italian. They met during the war. And on my dad's side, both parents were Italian. And yeah, I was born in Italy, moved to Luxembourg, so quite a varied background. I've only been in the UK since 1990, and my paternal granddad, before Italy became a republic, was a baron, and there is still a castle.
Of what? Of where?
Of a place called Fontecchio, which is in the Abruzzo region of Italy. So there is still a castle that my dad, I think, owns a tiny portion of.
Yes. Oh, no, you a baroness, really, or something?
Well, I suppose I would be if there was still that system, but there isn't anymore because it's a republic, so it's all by the by, really. But it's quite nice. I remember going to the castle when I was little. We used to go there overnight at times, and my parents would have parties there, which is quite a nice place to have a party. So it's interesting history, and I'm very lucky to have family in Rome and Sardinia and on the Adriatic. So.
I bet. Where are your ancestors from, Marika?
Well, not Bolsover Castle, that's for sure. But yeah, I have some Irish family, which is where Cashill comes from. On my dad's side, his granddad was Irish, and I've traced history back right through, you know, think it was 1862 when Stephen Cashill moved over to Scotland to Paisley, and all his sons since were called Stephen Cashill, Stephen Cashill and Stephen Cashill. But before 1862, of course, the Irish records are destroyed, and I can't find anything beyond that. So I'm kind of a little lost child.
The Cashill's kind of interesting enough because you can get that wrong. I nearly did just then. But what about the Marisa bit?
There was a lovely lady called Marisa a few houses up in Hillstown where I grew up, and my dad liked the name, and she was Italian, but I am not.
Does it make any difference that you've got names like Marisa and Frederika?
You can't ever buy a keyring with Marisa on,
no.
Can you? We used to get 50p for your school trip, yes, and you went to the gift shop. That was always very frustrating.
What, did you get Mary or something and settle for that?
I didn't bother. I got a rubber without my name on, I think.
What about it, being a Frederika? There aren't many, are there?
No, there aren't many, and I quite like it. You know, you do get people always saying, oh, that's a really unusual name, and when I was a child I hated it, but actually I've come to really like my name now, so I'm grateful for it.
Do people shorten it? Did they shorten it? Are you Freddie? Yeah, Fred.
Fred, yeah.
And are you Mary or Maro?
Nobody really calls me anything else.
Don't they?
Not
well, they don't.
Anyway.
It's BBC Radio Sheffield. We're talking about the stuff in the news today. I'd like to ask you about whether you'd like a tunnel to Manchester, you two. We've been hearing a lot about the so-called Northern Powerhouse. The Chancellor's plans to spend billions of quid on grand infrastructure projects to boost jobs up in the north of England. One of the schemes is a road tunnel under the Pennines, 30 miles long between Sheffield and Manchester. There are doubts about whether it'll happen, and the BBC's Roger Harrobin has got that story. Well, no tunnel, Marisa. What do you think?
Well, I kind of like the countryside. I'm going against all this money and Powerhouse thing. If it's going to devastate the Peak District National Park, then I think we should steer away from it. I mean, you know, I know there's a lot of traffic congestion between Sheffield and Manchester. It's, you know, possibly a nightmare, and pollution therefore kicks in, so you've got to weigh up the odds there. But I do think it sounds like a lot of money to be spending on something that's not guaranteed to even, you know, secure the Powerhouse.
What do you think?
Well, like Marisa, I don't know enough about the potential environmental and visual impact. The flip side could be that actually if they build a tunnel and it clears up the congestion, it actually frees up that beautiful countryside to be enjoyed again, and it would make it a lot faster to actually get from Sheffield to Manchester, which is a very short distance but seems to take a ridiculous amount of time. So it might be a good thing, but I don't know enough about it.
Thanks. BBC Radio Sheffield, the friends are here talking about the things in the news today. Later in this programme, we're going to hear about the Rotherham-based business running that art competition where you get your height in pies if you win. I'm asking you this morning, folks, what you've won. Peter's the first in on this one. He emailed to say my top win was 3,000 quid. All I had to do was give my name and address to a financial company. My most recent win was a lovely picture frame procured from our Chatterbox activity group raffle last Tuesday. What have you won? That's what I'm asking you. I'm on 0114279 6699. And a message from Dave the Tyke talking about Brexit. He says, Brexit? I always preferred Weetabix. Thank you. Other breakfast cereals are available. Thank you, Dave. Good, isn't it? This is Robert Palmer. Mercy, mercy, mercy. Robert Palmer, mercy, mercy, mercy. It's 12 minutes to 11. You're on BBC Radio Sheffield. In the studios with me, the friends of the day, Marisa Cashill and Frederika Roberts. We're talking about all sorts, including the referendum and Brexits and Syria and where our ancestors came from and tunnels under the on the way to Manchester. Mr. T got in touch on that one, saying they couldn't even sustain Sheffield city centre's hugest landmark, the focal point of greatest magnitude, the hole in the road. So he doesn't think the Manchester tunnel will happen. And on the point, Mr. T says, of winning, what do you ever win in this life? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm asking about winning this morning. Later in the programme, we're going to be hearing from a Rotherham-based business that are running an art competition where the winner gets their height in pies. Question is this: what have you won? I'm asking. 0114279 6699. Text 81333. What have you won? I'm asking these two as well. Frederika, what have you won? Tell us about the donut.
Quite embarrassingly, back in my uni days, many moons ago, I had to do I entered a competition, can you eat a donut without licking your lips? And the prize was a bottle of booze of your choice. So I worked very hard at that, eating the donut, and I chose a bottle of peach schnapps. And I've now found out that my 18-year-old daughter has discovered the joys of peach schnapps and lemonade, so I'm horrified.
Yeah.
History repeating itself.
What did the donut taste like, as it were?
Oh, it was a lovely jam donut. The trick is apparently because you can't not lick your lips because of the sugar. And I thought, well, if there's a bottle of booze involved, I'm sure I can do it.
Were you allowed to break it into bits to do it?
Oh, yeah, you didn't have to eat it, but you just weren't allowed to lick your lips in between mouthfuls.
And did you do it straight away and easily? And
Yeah, I did.
and
Yeah,
did they all
I wanted
applaud?
that bottle. Obviously, I was an impoverished student. You know.
Marisa, what have you won?
I recently won a Yankee Candle in my auntie's dog rescue raffle, but I did win a bottle of very cheap fizzy wine at my sister's 18th birthday party. It was a fancy dress competition and Cowboys and Indians theme, and I made myself a wigwam outfit, which clearly amazed.
And you went as a wigwam?
I went as a wigwam with a big hoop at the bottom to keep the shape, and it was very impractical, especially while drinking.
And what did people think?
Oh, they obviously loved it, but clearly I'm insane, so...
Clearly not. Shouldn't you be working on the Monday morning, you two? Where would you be if you weren't here, Marisa?
I would be on the picture desk at the Star. I'm the multimedia's images editor, so unfortunately I'm not sending photographers out at the moment to photograph things that are happening because I'm sat here.
Yeah. Do they know you're skiving this Monday morning?
Kinda.
Do you think they might be listening to you?
I think they might. So big shout out to the Star guys over there.
Good for the Star. Frederika, what about you? Where should you be?
Well, I am self-employed as a professional speaker, and today I was actually due to be at a mastermind group meeting, so me and 5 other speakers who meet monthly. A few of us were having issues today, so we've actually postponed it rather than trying to drop in and out of it.
Well, you've lost your motivation and things, is that?
No. It's just one of us had work to do. I was booked to come on here. Another one had to go and drive his wife somewhere this afternoon. We're supposed to be together all day, so we just said let's postpone it and do it in a couple of weeks when we can all be together all day again.
I'm glad you two have managed to make it, even if you get into coppage afterwards. Will you tell me the answer to this question? Do you think the old ones are the best? Are You Being Served is returning to our screens as a one-off special set in 1988. The new show will pick up where the comedy left off, following the misadventures of the staff at the fictional department store. And the new episode's being made as part of this BBC season celebrating 60 years of telly's sitcoms to be shown later this year. The news comes, of course, at the same time Dad's Army's remake in the cinemas all over the place. There are talks about rebooting Porridge and The Good Life and Up Pompeii and keeping up appearances. Is the old telly always the best, Marisa?
I think we always look back fondly at things that used to make us laugh, or, you know, perfect dramas and things like that. Whether we should bring them back, I think they were probably of their time, and when we see them back on the telly we might actually cringe, and of course they'll probably do a modern take on it which may, you know, revive it a little bit. But I do think back to when I was younger, some of the programmes we watched, it was family time, and I don't think many families sit down and watch a programme together at all anymore because there's just not that kind of entertainment.
Which programmes would you particularly think of there, or would you indeed like to see again?
I think on a Saturday night you used to have quite a lot, you know, you had your Brucey and, you know, Play Your Cards Right kind of things, you know, all the game shows that came out of that time were really good, really interesting. Like you say, Dad's Army and Are You Being Served, you know, I used to sit down and watch that with the family.
Was it a bit shocking in those days when you were a little girl?
I was probably very young to understand those kinds of jokes. I'm sticking to that.
All right, fair enough. What about it, Frederika?
Well, I wasn't in the country when most of these TV shows were around, but I think with anything that was of its time, as Marisa said, and brings up lots of memories for people, I think, isn't it nice that we can just replay them, actually, and relive those memories for those that remember it, rather than trying to recreate a new version of it, which could actually tarnish the memories of what was really good. So I'd say no, don't bring them back, but do put lots of replays on as people do, and people can reminisce that way.
Sticking to the subject of old things, do you two use any outdated technology? The Sony executives have been talking about sending faxes instead of emails because they're more secure. Back to the fax, gosh. And the suggestion that there's a revival in people listening to cassettes once again, the way in which we once upon a time got our music, cassettes and all that stuff. What do you think of faxes and cassettes and outdated technology? Do you have any of this stuff, Frederika?
Well, I still have a working VHS player.
Do you?
And a load of VHS tapes, which eventually we will be transferring onto digital format. But for as long as it's still working, it's nice to know that a lot of the memories and the films and you know, all the footage of when I was little and all of that kind of stuff, that's still available on VHS. So we're looking after that VHS player very well to make sure it keeps working.
Have you got any stuff in
I've got some very old cameras. Obviously, being a photographer, I do like to, you know, research things. So I've got lots of box brownies and folding cameras. But I do think that technology today, you know, we need to keep it up and keep moving forwards and not backwards.
So your lovely old cameras you'd never actually use? You wouldn't have any film in the house?
I do have film in the house, and I have used them, and I have got sort of the plastic cameras with film at the moment. I've just been bought for my birthday one of these Polaroid style cameras, so that's quite novel as well.
What kind of present was that for you?
Yes, it was a birthday present for me.
But isn't it odd when you can have, with a selfie stick, take decent pictures anywhere you go?
This is the other thing. You can, you know, I took a picture of me and my dog at the weekend, you know, with the digital camera, and it was on Facebook within the hour. So, you know, that's the magic of technology today. And I do a piece for the Star. I'm one of the tech girls, so I do write about technology. I love technology, and I think, you know, cassettes, come on, who's got a cassette player anymore?
Thank you both very much. Don't ring now, folks. And thank you very much for coming in and interrupting your busy days, you two. Hope you keep the jobs, Marisa and Frederika.